Okay, let's get started. Hey, everybody. It is Wednesday night here on Live Long and Podcast. Welcome to 2021, our second podcast of 2021. And here we're talking about the original series, Season 3, Episode 16, Whom Gods Destroy. I'm Dave Mader, coming with Star Trek TV and movie reviews, and we got a great panel to break this all down. Introducing first, we got Jody Simpson. How you doing, Jody?
Hey, how's it going?
I'm doing well. It's well, you know, it's been a day.
It has been a day
in the world, but
especially for the Americans.
Especially for the Americans, but in Star Trek land, not bad. So let's talk about this episode. Also bringing in, we got the namesake of the Ted Trek podcast, where we cover original series. We got my dad, Ted. How are you doing, Dad?
I'm doing great. What's going on?
There we lost Jeff. Okay, that's why I did that. Going well. We got some interesting new backgrounds here. Everyone's got new backgrounds. Speaking of new backgrounds,
beautiful Enterprise here.
Yeah, we also got Adam Woodward. How you doing, Adam? Also with some new background details, some Christmas gifts, some featured there. I think, especially I like that painting tableau thing you're going on there. That's really interesting. And finally, we also have my brother, Jeff Mader. How you doing, Jeff?
Good. Ready to talk about crazy people not accepting they can't
do it. I think we're about to lose Jeff again.
Lost Jeff.
So,
still here.
Oh no!
Oh, there he is.
You just delayed for a second.
You broke up.
Okay, well, you broke up for a couple seconds. So, say hello.
Oh, how dare I?
Well, I don't know if it's a matter of daring.
What's this? You got it in like a framed family photo, Dad. The Star Trek.
Yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, he pulled out the photo of us as kids and he put that in.
Yeah.
He's like, fuck these kids. I need my Kirk.
He's like, this is my new family. You know, every day at 11 a.m. I gotta commune with Kirk.
Exactly.
Yeah, I got a picture of the boys.
And we're here to talk about this episode. Now, if you don't know it, this is basically like the inmates have taken over the asylum. Just to remind everybody, this is the episode that features the prolific Garth of Izar, along
Captain
with a bunch
Garth.
of Lord Garth, I think you mean.
No, I call him
At the end.
that guy.
Yeah, that guy. He basically he's a Starfleet. He was like the greatest Starfleet captain there ever was, and he went insane on some mission, and now he can shapeshift and he takes over the asylum, and he tries to take over the Enterprise. And
He's kind of like Star Trek's version of Loki.
Yeah.
No, I think he's more like Star Trek's version of Liberace.
So Loki.
There was definitely some big gay energy involved here with this.
I didn't say anything about being gay. I just said Liberace wasn't gay, was he?
Yeah, who would have thought
Liberace?
Who knew Liberace was gay?
Whoever saw that
Liberace
was gay.
Yeah, it's just like the grandeur. I love. Okay, so I wanted to say. I'm gonna come on screen. Sorry. I just want to say I love this episode. It's always been a big favorite for me. I love the concept of it, but I think more than that, it's also just this character of Garth. I find him his backstory compelling, and Kirk's reverence for him, and how they treat this whole mental illness thing, and how they sort of have to get out of this calamity, which feels pretty tense. Even I've seen this before, but I want to kind of get everyone's thoughts. Jody, what do you think?
I saw this. I saw this recently, actually, when I watched Star Trek Beyond, because this is almost the same fucking plot. Like, it's other than the insane asylum part, but like, the captain that's, obviously different and stuff like that. But it's overall, it's not a bad episode. Yeah, I'm being a little bit.
I was trying to think what the comparison. So you're saying that Garth reminds you of Balthazar Edison, aka Krall from Star Trek Beyond.
You got it.
I hadn't really thought of that. But interesting take.
Yeah. Well,
Adam, sorry.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead. That's fine.
No, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I have nothing else to say that's worth it anyway.
I thought you were done. So here, go ahead.
No, it wasn't a bad episode. I would say it's definitely one of the better episodes of the third season. That's not saying much, but it's definitely a little bit better, I guess. So.
Yeah. I don't disagree. Okay, so Adam, you were up next. Adam, what are you thinking of?
I don't remember seeing this episode before. I really liked it too, Dave. I thought this entertained me. The guy shouting all the time was fantastic. The Orion woman, she was great. Kirk was good. Spock was good. It was just a well put together episode. I thought the acting wasn't crazy. The fight scene was on a high def was very funny to watch between Kirk.
Yeah, that's saying something.
I thought like the whole when Kirk fights Kirk, when Earth is Kirk. Yeah, like it's obviously him fighting a stuntman, but it was okay. Like I've seen worse, but it's considering.
I quite like this episode. Quite like that. Yeah.
Jeff, we often talk about season 3. You know, it had less budget. It had so they had to rely more on writing and just trying to get performances out. Does this does this feel low budget to you? Do you feel like this had potential maybe, or are you where are you sitting on that?
Well, I mean, low budget. I mean, how much paint did they have to green paint did they need to make sure their Ryan girl's green the entire time? Every time she touches something, they got to retouch up that paint. That's got to cost something.
I like the best part when, like later on in the episode where they put the necklace on her and she's like kind of rubbing the necklace for a second. You can actually see all the paint moving around.
Yeah, exactly.
And the fact they had to put a green light on her when she spoke.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll get to this in fun facts with Jeff, but is Marta like the first Orion we've had since like the Pike appearance in the cage?
I'm not sure.
I can't remember another Ryan female being on the show other than the one that's famous, or like in that Pike flashback we get in
Menagerie.
The original, whatever the cage was the original Pike.
The cage,
right? Yeah. So she was really fun. She's the only other inmate who really talks.
So she's played by a woman that also played Batgirl, Barbara Gordon, on the Batman TV show. Same person.
That's Batgirl. Or
so good.
Batgirls, right?
Yvonne Gregg. Yeah.
Those other guys who were his inmate partners or whatever. They all look like they just came from the last Trump rally.
Okay, so
that might not be something to talk about today.
I think this episode is very much like a Batman episode, 1966. Like I think they could have done this script with Batman.
It probably was
instead of Kirk. Batman and Robin instead of Kirk and Spock, and they easily could have done the same story.
Yeah. What if Garth of Izar had been played by Frankie Gorshin?
Who would the villain be, Jeff? Who would the villain be? What would his name be?
Probably the Riddler, or I don't know. It doesn't matter. They're all eccentric bad guys. Somebody who can
maybe the Bookworm or Mr. Freeze.
Yeah, maybe. Really, it doesn't matter.
I think he's saying that Garth of Izar could fight Adam West Batman and it would be believable. And I think he's got a point. But Dad, what's your thoughts on this episode? Is this a Batman 1969 episode? Is this where does this rank for you? And why did you pick it?
I picked it because I thought that the story was quite good about how they went to this planet, and there was this, it was kind of he had to deal with this guy who seemed to deal with him, and he got away with it pretty good. But it seemed like the guy could have killed him but he wanted the ship, so he was good. It was the only time I've ever heard Kirk put a code in when he went down to a planet. Has anybody ever heard of another code like that?
Yeah, I don't remember that. Like, I remember it obviously from this episode, but I don't remember it from any of the other ones.
Maybe he's learned a lesson by now. Maybe he's figured out he should have code words when he beams down.
Well, how many fucking times does the Enterprise have to get taken over before somebody clues into this? Like,
yeah. It was an interesting episode. It was good story.
Well, that plot really is like an ongoing thing through all the seasons. There's at least 2 or 3 episodes every season of somebody taking the damn ship or trying to take the ship.
We never got it, this guy, though.
Yeah.
The code. It was the code.
Queen to level 2 or whatever. What is it? Queen to something or other. To level 2.
Queen's
you don't play a lot of chess, do you?
Level 3 or something like that. Queen's 9 to level 3 or something.
They're talking 3D chess, right, Jeff?
Yes, they are. Yeah.
I think so, because he says level. He says level 3.
Yeah, Queen's level 3.
And they're not, because in real chess there would not be an infinite number of possible moves, like to counter moves, right? Because there's maybe a lot of moves, but there's not an infinite number. Does 3D chess have infinite numbers of moves?
Well, the
think
queen
it's
can
infinite,
move
but a lot
in
more.
regular chess. In the regular chess, the queen can move any way, like diagonal or straight. So,
Yeah.
not infinite though. for
I
sure.
got to read up on my.
Yeah,
3D.
but in 3D chess, it can move between levels as well. So
Yeah.
like all the levels. Yeah.
Okay, so just let's get into the episode itself. I just wanted to kind of talk about the whole concept of it. So it starts right away with them arriving at the asylum, which is on a planet with a poisonous atmosphere. They establish that right away, and it's under a shield. They kind of established that in the first few minutes of Kirk and Spock beaming down. But they're there because there's some kind of a new medicine that will cure all mental illness, like across the board forever, which sounds like amazing. So I guess they were coming here to administer that cure to these people, because there's 15 of the galaxy's most dangerous criminals in this asylum. So that's kind of
These are like the leftovers because it's like a poison planet, right?
Yeah, I feel like it's meant to be. Probably so it's harder to escape and harder to infiltrate. You can see how hard it was for even Scotty and McCoy once they realize what's going on, how to get in to save them. They can't do much from the outside. So it's kind of like an Alcatraz almost. In some ways. And there we meet Governor Corey. Dr. Corey, he's like the warden or the head doctor. I got a photo of him somewhere. I guess I'm sure somewhere. Anyway, so he's like, oh, well, you have to come to dinner with me tonight. I've trapped you under the force field. And then he's like, come and meet the inmates, including Garth. And this is where Kirk's like, I know Garth. He's great. Like, I had to read about him. I would love to meet him. And so, they're going down the hall and we're kind of meeting. Well, first we meet Marta and she's, they have a little discussion there. Then we see these other two guys, the Tellarite and the Andorian. Oh, here's Dr. Corey. As he appears in the episode. This is the actual Dr. Corey as we'll meet in that final cell, as played by, what's his guy's name? Something Key or, this actor. But, he's a known actor, and we also had
he's played by Kiye Luke.
Key Luke, right?
Kiye Luke, yeah.
Here. So a couple of the henchmen, we have the Andorian Liberace with the feather boa, and then we have this Tellarite bad guy, I guess. Neither of them talk, but they're in the episode quite a bit until finally. We meet Dr. Corey in that final cell, and he goes, "No, Jim, he tricked you." And Garth reveals himself that he can transform himself, which they kind of set up in the dialogue as they're describing what happened to him. He was on some mission, the people of Antos 4, which I got to find out in fun facts, Jeff, if Antos 4 it plays into anything else in Star Trek. I can't recall. And he learned to regenerate an injury, but he also learned to change form, but this is kind of what set him insane in the first place. And then he tried to kill the entire planet, and which his crew wouldn't do, and that's how he kind of ended up here. And I guess that happened somewhat recently, somewhat recently, because Kirk's kind of unaware of it, at least. And that's the beginning.
Yeah, the thing that bothers me about Garth's character is the fact that like Kirk's is going on about how he's like this, like very well known captain and stuff like that. But yet, when you see the actor the first time, you're like, he's a little young for that. Like, it's to me, like I got the vibe of like, how could this be the guy? Like, he's too young.
Well, how much older than Kirk is he supposed to be exactly?
Well, they're never clear on it, I don't think, but it's still, it's one of those things where you're just kind of like, this guy's supposed to be like some, almost ancient captain, like, whatever.
Yeah, like we don't get a ton of his bio. We know that he was at Axanar, which is a famous battle, but we don't really know from what. I think it could be part of the Klingon Federation War we see in Star Trek Discovery, Adam, because there's quite a few references here in the episode as Kirk and Garth, Lord Garth, when he's in his insane mode until the end, talking about what he's done in his career, in his life. And Axanar being this massive battle, but he's like, I went there as a cadet on a peace mission, and times changed, right? Basically, like I guess Starfleet used to be more militaristic, and maybe has grown. He says, I consider myself an explorer these days, and or primarily or whatever.
Yeah. Again, I mean, Star Trek back then didn't do a great job explaining the backstories behind people, and I think that's where television has really evolved into these days where you can do episodes on Garth, or you can do an episode on Kirk's childhood or whatever. You can do anything, and back then they were just telling an episode of it was one episode, one story, done. But wouldn't it be great to go back and do these again and redo them today and start explaining these guys a little more? Because I'd love to know more. Like, I mean, that sounds great. That sounds like a great episode.
I'd rather they do that than do another season of Picard.
or like I think like there's like these gaps in like the Star Trek timeline, which I wouldn't mind being filled in here and there. Although we get Enterprise and different results beyond Star Trek Beyond or whatever. These are all effectively different types of prequels.
Sorry, Dave, there might be books about these guys too out there that I just don't know about.
I think there are
canon.
Or I think there are fan videos, but I don't really know. I'm sorry.
They're not canon, Adam.
They're not canon. So.
And one more thing you have to mention.
No, I'm good.
Okay, for now.
I'm gonna try to go a whole episode without mentioning it.
Mention Miri.
There you go.
You screwed it all up, Dave.
Okay. So, like, Jeff, did you feel like there was like a tension throughout this episode? Like, do you feel like there was like these people are actually dangerous, Garth and his group? Did you feel like the villainy?
It felt like I said, like a Batman, villain. And you knew
Exactly.
like Kirk and Spock were gonna get out of it. He was too like twist of the mustache evil for me to like take him seriously. I felt, and just like he was so over dramatic, as like he would just like shout, it'd be like, "Oh my!" And like I was just like, "Whoa, this guy's really cool." Yeah. So I felt like his performance kind of ruined the intimidation factor.
Right. Yeah, you definitely got like a kind of a vibe of they made him kind of like the friendly enemy, like the Joker and Batman kind of thing. Where like the whole time you're like, oh, here we go again. The Joker's going to do something stupid and then they're going to save the day, blah, blah, blah. Right? Yeah. So it's like, yeah, I definitely agree with you on that, Jeff.
Dad, do you think if Garth, because basically the episode, because Garth, after he puts Kirk in the cell, and he puts Spock in a separate cell, he stuns him off camera, which I'm not sure why, but that's.
Yeah, they didn't show that. I thought I missed it.
Yeah, no, they don't show it. We just see Spock being dragged away by the Andorian and the Tellarite as the episode comes back. So I guess the first question is, why did they just cut that for time, or is there a reason Garth?
Yeah, they cut it.
Wanted him stunned. What? Like if they said, Spock, please come over here and we'll put you in this other cell, I don't think Spock would have not done it. So
maybe Spock made a move towards him and he fired and he shot at him.
Maybe it is random.
I think they had to cut it so that way they can get the green girl dance scenes in.
I think when I watched it on on every Monday afternoon, there's Star Trek episodes on Sci-Fi or one of those channels, and on that version, I think they showed him shoot Spock.
Okay, so maybe it was just cut for time.
Just cut for time on that.
But really, the whole premise of the episode is that Izar, he wants to take over Kirk's ship so he can hunt down his old crew and kill them all. That's his plan. But Kirk put a password in place, so he basically has to get Kirk to tell him the password to get to beam up. That's really what he spends most of the episode doing. And if he wanted to get Kirk to tell him, he could have threatened Spock's life. He could have put that Governor Corey. He could have really put the screws to him harder. He could have appealed to Kirk's maybe I'm willing to go into the machine, but I don't want to see someone else suffer. You know what I mean?
Or maybe not giving away the fact that he was after the password. Maybe played him in chess, got him to get to that move, and then see what he did.
Wow.
Right.
That's really stretching that one out, but all right.
Because Jeff, we saw when he finds out that Kirk put a password in place. He has this little temper tantrum.
Yeah.
Yelling and kicking and screaming on the floor.
Which I think William Shatner had a lot of fun with.
Because he does it as Shatner, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he does it as Kirk, in the form of Kirk. When he goes, Scotty's like, give me the password. And he's like, never mind, just tested you. Carry on. And then he goes, ah! He's kicking and screaming. But then he goes through this once he kind of recovers, he goes through this. He's like, he invites Kirk and Spock to dinner. He puts on entertainment. He gets the Andorian and the Tellarite to do some kind of horsey game.
What was that all about?
What was that?
That was like what we used to call wheelbarrows. Through a wheelbarrow.
Is that like a game?
Yeah, well, we used to do it in school, like have races, wheelbarrow races, where you would have one guy on the floor and one guy carry your legs, and you try and go to the other end of the gym as fast as you can.
They weren't racing anybody.
That was what that reminded me of.
What do you think? What did you think? What did you think about Kirk, like in the whole like Spock's my brother scene, and then Spock explaining how Kirk's logic is weird but good.
I liked it. Okay, hold on. I got to come on video here to talk about this. Listen, okay, this is the Spock I know. Okay, this is the Spock. I'm speaking almost to Adam but he doesn't write for Star Trek Discovery. But when we had Spock in season 2, like
Discovery's all your fault, Adam.
Your fault, Adam. It's because I feel like the way they write the Ethan Peck Spock is not the same as this Leonard Nimoy Spock at all. And I think he's like because he says like we're in peace now. The Federation has made me and Spock brothers, and he goes, well, he speaks somewhat figuratively, and da da da. He takes all the emotion out of it, right? And he speaks, but he's like, I do agree, and da 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 da. And then the new Spock would be like having a cry fest with Michael Burnham or something on the hull of a ship before he's about to go into a portal. So it's I guess that so anyway, it's.
All right. If Star Trek Discovery is having Spock have a cry fest, then that's not canon.
It is canon, but but I enjoyed that scene. I enjoyed what Kirk says there. I don't know. Does anyone else not? Or
I didn't like it.
I like when Spock described the dance from the Green Girl, and he said they do this. Elementary students do this in Vulcan. But not
yeah, that was creepy.
He's like, they're not as coordinated. He says.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
That was a little bit of a pedo vibe there.
Yeah, it was a bit creep show on Spock's.
Not as big of a pedo vibe as some other episodes, which will remain nameless.
Like a Mary
pedo vibe.
I haven't said it.
Okay,
I just didn't understand why the Vulcan children would have a dance like this.
Yeah, I know.
So she's like, I'm the most beautiful woman on this planet. He's like, you're the only woman on this planet. And eventually the fun and the games end because Garth kind of loses his patience as he thinks, I guess he was trying to butter Kirk up so he would give him the information. I don't know why he thought that would work, but I guess he's insane. But then that's when he starts putting like Dr. Corey and Kirk himself into that machine, that agony chair that was kind of, like it's used to help mental patients, but was weaponized basically. And it took a lot out of Kirk. It knocked him right out after a couple of minutes. This seems pretty brutal. Was this anybody else, or did it feel like just like they were in some kind of Batman 1966 contraption, Jeff?
No, I think it was a legitimate torture thing.
I could buy it.
Yeah. No screams.
No.
So, but okay, Marta is the one who puts a stop to it. She pleads for his life, basically. I guess because he wasn't going to die in there, but she didn't like it. She wanted to seduce him so she could kill him because that's her thing. And what was her plan here, or was this always part of Garth's plan?
No, I don't think so.
And I just love the moment where Garth's like, "What? You wanna get with him?"
Well, he does tell Kirk he can have her, and he's like, "Well, thanks, I guess. I don't know. It's
Let me seduce him. Let me get the information for you.
Yeah, she's like, let me try, because she had tried earlier and it didn't work. And then so after he passes out, he wakes up in this like room, I guess it's and she's there and she's putting the moves on him, and he's into it. He's into it. And she's like, I believe you when you tell me you want to help or whatever. And so after a few minutes, she agrees to help him, and then as she goes to make good on that, she tries to stab him, which he stops. But then Spock saves the day. She already mentioned that she got Spock out somehow, and Spock shows up with a phaser. But guess what? It's not Spock. It's Garth, because you're just trying to get the password. So and then okay, so that whole sequence was that good for you guys? Did you like that, or was it just more of the same, like more?
Well, I think you really thought it was Spock. You found out later it wasn't, but you really thought it might have been at the beginning.
It felt like it was, right? And I've seen this before.
Yeah, I thought it was Spock. He did a good job. I haven't, like I said, I don't remember this episode.
Yeah.
Well, why couldn't they beam down the security force though?
I don't know. Don't ask questions like that when it comes
That's
to
a good question.
Because
The shield was down at that point. They just wasn't giving the password.
because they can't afford it, Dave. The NBC's only got so much dough.
down because it was the force field was out.
Do we never see the security detachment because there was no budget for that many extras and red shirts?
There was no way they could put it down.
Yeah, but one of them was there at the end.
You only had
They
budget.
came down at the end after the
They
force
had
field.
one.
Yeah.
They had budget for one, but they're not paying for his food.
Well, didn't need enough at that point. Security.
Just so you know, Adam, I changed my background for you.
It's okay. I like how you're doing
Mary?
this passive aggressively. You're doing this passive aggressively and not saying it, but you're putting pictures up behind.
Putting Miri pictures up.
Yes.
What a great episode, Mary. I'm gonna reevaluate my rating.
I feel like we talk like it's the worst episode of Star Trek ever. It's not
Keeps
good.
coming back.
It's not the worst episode. The hippies is still the worst episode.
Journey to Eden?
Yeah. Well, there's no Alexander Vashenko, so
Oh, that's true.
you're doing all right. You're doing all right off the bat.
Alexander. Let's not even talk about that. Just stresses me out.
Hot flashes. Jody's getting hot flashes.
So Kirk again is he gets taken, like he loses again to Garth, and then again Garth is trying to, I guess, woo him or form a bond with him or something. And so he has this big coronation ceremony where he's crowned as King Garth, and he comes in and or Lord Garth. I'm sorry, he's not a king, he's a lord.
He's a lord, yeah.
He's a lord. And
Yeah, get it
Come
right.
on.
He's
where's
a
a
lord.
crown? It's confusing.
Get your shit together, Dave.
Yeah. He names Marta as consort, which basically makes her the queen. This is only mere minutes before he has her killed.
She's the only woman on the planet. Of course, he's going to make her the queen.
Yeah. And then he says that Kirk is the heir apparent. Kirk is the next in line to the lordship, to the Lord of Garth, of Izar, I suppose. The Lord of Izar. And wherever that is. But I don't know.
What did you think about, Dave? What did you think about the explanation for why he blew up that planet? Seemed ridiculous to me.
No, I don't know if it was ridiculous. It was kind of like
What did he say?
Because when he got injured on some mission or whatever, and then these people of Angkor, they had to teach him cellular regeneration or something because he had hurt most of his body or damaged most of his body, but it drove him insane as a side effect. I don't know. It's as credible as anything else. Like it's
and that's why he blew up the whole planet.
He tried to. The crew didn't let him.
That was mutiny.
That was what these crew mutiny. That's why he wants to track them down to murder them.
Makes sense.
Right. Of course, as you do.
What else are you going to do?
Right.
Yeah, something else to do in the universe.
That's right.
But Jody, what did you make of like this whole coronation scene? Why did we have it? Like it's like the third attempt he's tried to like seduce Kirk.
I think. Sorry, that's Jody's question. Go ahead.
Oh, whoever.
All right. You probably have a better answer than I do. Go for it.
Oh, but it's his need to be appreciated. It's his need to get while Kirk maybe respect him for what he's done. I think that Garth needs to have the accolades that Kirk will give him, the respect that Kirk will give him. He wants that as well, and he just doesn't. He's not just good enough to take the ship. He needs to be recognized, and Kirk doesn't do that. So that's just why I think he keeps coming back that whole episode and saying, "Hey, Kirk, do something for me. Appreciate me. Look what I've done."
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe because he knows that Kirk has this hero worship of him. Because Kirk tells him as much when he's in the form of Dr. Corey, and then he's like, "Okay, I'm going to use that. I'm going to play to that because that is it's a feedback loop to my ego as well."
Yeah,
yeah,
and and it's the same power that he's got over Marta and the other guys. He needs the court around him to validate him and his power and what he does. So.
Right. But okay, and so then the next scene finally is like, okay, come with me, heir apparent. Now that you're my lord apparent, and then this is where the scene where they drag Marta.
This is the best scene in the entire show.
They drag her out.
We finally kill her, and she's annoying as hell.
You didn't like her, okay? So the question is, like, do we feel anything when she dies? Like,
Relief.
Relief. Well, she might have gotten better with the medicine.
Oh my god! Oh, she was just so irritating.
Go make another Batgirl episode. Get out of here.
Yeah.
He went out with a bang.
Oh, Ted! Wow.
Well, mic drop there. She sure did. Okay. Yeah, because that reminds me, we also have this whole this explosive that Garth has invented, the most powerful explosive ever. And he's going to drop like the vial on the ground the whole time, but Kirk's like, I don't know, if I die, you die. So I don't know what the heck your wife's supposed to.
What are you going on about?
What are you going on about? But he puts only 1 grain of sand of this explosive onto Marta, which is already in a poisonous atmosphere. So she's already suffocating from that. And then he blows her up. Why? What did she do to him? Or was it just because he's insane? And that's the only answer.
Well, no, I think she's irritating as hell. That's probably what it really is.
She was driving him crazy.
Oh, yeah.
What, that Andorian wasn't? In the feather
Oh,
ball?
come on, boys. Let's be honest here. There's at least one time we've thought about it.
I don't know. Jeff, what did you think?
That's normal, right?
Marta's death. Were you relieved? Indifferent?
No. I mean, yeah, indifferent. Like I didn't understand if she was good or bad. She seemed like she didn't know either.
She was. They were all sick people. I think that's kind of the point of the episode, right? That they're not really responsible for their actions fully.
They're all mentally insane.
I mean,
so what you're actually saying is Kirk is trying to essentially abolish all the people with problems.
Well, I think he's trying to cure them. Well, you can object.
A cure, kill. It's a close thing.
I mean, a kill is a form of cure.
True.
I mean, you're no longer sick.
A little dramatic.
Well, I think I think it's interesting. It's raising an interesting thing. Okay, but before we should get to the whole idea of the medicine and things like that. So the whole sequence that comes up next is that because they go to get Spock because they want to try to finally use Spock against Kirk, and so the Tellarite and the Andorian go to get him, and when they come back, when they go to get him, like Spock kind of plays dead, waits for them to pick him up, and that's when he gets him with the double nerve pinch. And then he's coming at Garth, and Garth's like, "Oh, he's so clever."
Which I think is the only time we've ever seen a double nerve pinch.
Right. Garth does not try to call any of his other henchmen. He just he decides to have a confrontation with Spock, and he does this by taking on the form of Kirk himself. And then we get the whole 2 Kirks, and Spock doesn't know what to do. And we get this whole sequence, which I think is fun, I guess, because there's like questions. How do I know who the real Kirk is?
You know what? It solved that age-old question of, what's more crazier than William Shatner's acting, and that's when he's doing it twice.
Maybe, I think you might have a point there.
Yeah.
Dad, what did you get? Because they referenced the King Solomon story from the Bible here, and when the king, when the 2 mothers said that the baby was theirs, and Solomon saved it by just cut the baby in half, and then that's how he knew who the fake mother was or whatever.
Yeah, that's right. He would rather have the baby live than kill it. right? And it's the same thing he did. He'd rather have the Enterprise live, so shoot me, you know.
If Spock had just shot both of them, would it not have been faster?
It would have been more efficient. I think there'd be more paperwork involved, though.
Yeah, he'd have to say sorry to Kirk for shooting a superior officer. Is that why he's avoiding it?
Maybe.
Well, you still have the same problem when they woke up. Which one's which?
There's a few different ways that he tries to figure out who it is. Like, if I was Spock in that situation, I just would have shot them both. Like, you're only stunning them. He's been stunned once in this episode. He got back up okay. Yeah, like this whole little fight, we get the stuntmen fight, which I think is actually okay for the time, considering it would have been on mostly black and white TVs and stuff like that. And you probably like, I don't think that the other guy looks different enough that it takes you out of it. But but of course you're gonna look close if it's supposed to both be him. Looks a lot better than some of the other versions. But this is okay. So they talk about the episode where they defeated the Romulan vessel near Tau Ceti, and he says the Cochrane deceleration maneuver, which apparently is a standard maneuver. So there's a whole like there was like Spock could have asked a tougher question, like what's your brother's name maybe, or something that he knew Garth would not have known or would not have guessed even.
Yeah, that's true. For sure. Like it's like he almost picked like one of the most obviously easy things to guess. It's like why not just make it something that like only the two of them intimately would know? Like, why would you do something like that?
And then the resolution of the episode is that okay, the good guys won. They took out. They were able to subdue Earth, and they start administering the medicine that's curing them. But is there any foul play here, or should we be suspect of being cured? And I'm saying that in quotes.
I think when you look at the time, to quote Ted here, when you go back in time and what was going on at that point with mental health and lobotomies and just sort of this discord, or not discord, but sort of the need to solve the problem. But when you look back on it today, it's medieval, and I think they did a pretty good job in this episode of sort of talking about that, but not passing judgment or going as far as changing people's brains. But it was really it's just a cure. They didn't talk about what it was, other than some kind of stimulant on the brain, I guess. But underlying fact here, there was a lot of stuff going on in that period that was a little questionable with mental health. So, I think that it was a pretty good depiction of that. Like underlying, you have to look a little deeper than just the craziness that Garth was playing.
Well, I don't know the answer to this, but what were people who were considered criminally insane? Was the idea of them not being responsible for their actions a new concept idea in this time period, or was this pretty widely accepted? Dad, you might be the best to answer this because you were.
I would say that if you were mentally insane, you would be put into an insane asylum, and you wouldn't be getting out, right? Whereas if you weren't mentally insane, but you weren't like dangerous to other people, they'd probably put you in a home much like what One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest was. But if you were too bad, they might give you a lobotomy, like Jack Nicholson got in the end in that movie.
Right, but the idea that they didn't belong in prison no,
they didn't belong in prison. But the guys who did belong in prison would be in a prison, a much more secure prison than
we got a question here from Captain RGD. How come Kirk's uniform always gets ripped? Does it get ripped in this episode?
It's in Shatner's contract.
Yeah, he's got to show that little rip between his little man nipples there.
Oh,
it's either that or he's got to show the little thing down the side here.
If he's had things that week,
let's go off Kirk's shaved chest.
see it in the picture behind Dad. Kirk sitting down. He's not as fit as he was in.
It must be season
He sure
three.
gets ripped less in season 3, I think.
Yeah, it must be season 3 picture.
Well, they didn't have the budget to replace the shirts all the time.
No, because they all got new shirts in season 3, as we had talked about.
That was the whole budget.
The budget spent.
They spent the entire budget on new shirts, which looked very close to the old shirts. And then that's the okay. And then there's the final scene with Garth and Kirk. And Garth and Kirk, because Garth basically doesn't remember, or seemingly doesn't remember anything that's happened in this whole episode by the end. He's kind of a changed person. He seems to be kind of going back to who he is. And even earlier when Kirk was trying to, it was almost seemed like he was getting through. He's like, remember when you were a captain? Remember when you were like the model that we all modeled ourselves after? And he's almost like he's not as good at talking this guy down as he is a computer to death. But Kirk, he's almost reaching him just with this sort of thing, and then he kind of goes, it takes over and he can't handle it anymore. But when they sort of say goodbye at the end, there's kind of like this, I don't know, sort of uncertainty, I guess. Like I don't know what to feel when Garth.
Well, here's the thing about this is that, and this is where with medication with children who suffer from ADHD or whatever it is, where are you taking personality away from somebody, right? Because I like Garth as the Garth he was, running around screaming, yelling, being a lord. Because when he was medicated or cured, he's becoming kind of boring. So
question, was Garth supposed to be like Lorca from Star Trek Discovery? Like if you're talking about the mirror Lorca, I don't think so. I
don't think we can put that together.
Garth is more like the old hero. Garth is like he's like the
is
Kirk's
Garth
hero.
from the time of Discovery, or is it even before that?
Wait, probably even before that, because we're saying so. Because Discovery was 10 years before this, roughly, and he talked about the Battle of Axanar. Did he give? I don't know if he gave a year or how long ago that was, but it was when Kirk was at the Academy, which was about 15 years ago or so, I think. And so he's probably like maybe 20 years older than Kirk. I don't know. Like I guess that's where we can kind of come up with it. And
so you're talking about the 2250s
and the 2240s. Like I get the impression he's supposed to be more like Kirk's father's age, maybe, or maybe a bit younger than Kirk's dad, but like as played by Chris Hemsworth in Star Trek 2009. But he's maybe he just makes himself look younger too because he had he learned how to regenerate his body. There's also a possibility that he's not as old
that's a good theory. Yeah,
as he would have been looking. So, or he's just a young looking guy in general. But I think just on that whole point, like I'm left with this feeling like, is Garth sedated or is he becoming who he used to be again? And I feel like that this character I think has potential to be brought back in prequels. In stuff like Discovery or maybe Strange New Worlds or something that lives in that time, and then also maybe in spin-off stuff, even in the Kelvin universe with the Chris Pine and J.J. Abrams versions of those characters. Can you have a Garth of Izar? Is he interesting enough? And I think the problem is I don't think that this episode is as well regarded as like Space Seed or certain episodes that everybody knows. They might remember Marta because she's green, but I don't know is Garth of Izar memorable.
But to Jeff's point, he's too comical as well. He is that goofy Batman character. While Khan was very serious, believable. I think it was easy to make the leap to a motion picture with Khan versus Garth of Asgard or whatever his name is. So,
Izar.
Yeah.
What about the Squire, Dave?
Squire,
remember the guy was the Squire?
Squire of Gothos. You're talking about Trelane. He was very flamboyant and very like mustache. Yeah. Right. There were villains in the original series that were like this, and they were memorable. I think that I love Garth of Izar's like depiction. I think I would have been interested to see what the captain version is. I think my guess is he was something like Pike, right? Like the version of Pike we're getting in Discovery, and presumably
Well, at least regarded like Pike, anyway.
at least regarded like the perfect captain, makes no mistakes, like is sort of like the best of the best of the best. You know, even better than Kirk. Almost like can't lose. But
I know it's weird for me, but I have nothing else to say to that.
Yeah, there you go.
Sorry.
Well, that's the end of the episode. So
can I talk about one thing about this episode that really drove me nuts?
Yeah.
It felt to me like Leonard Nimoy was just calling it in on this entire production. Like everything about his acting in this episode just kind of tweaked me the wrong way. I don't know if you guys experienced the same thing. Like obviously Kirk was being a very odd Kirk because that's just Kirk. But I don't know, Leonard Nimoy it seemed like there was something really, really wrong going on because he didn't seem like he was in character correctly.
Well, I know from like Star Trek documentaries and a couple other things that this is a period where Leonard Nimoy was drinking heavily. I think by this.
Okay.
Yeah, and he would do it more at night. Like he would get super stressed out and like have a really hard day, and then he'd come home and just pound martinis. And it's possible that he was recovering from too many martinis.
There you go. I didn't know that.
Yeah, he actually quit drinking in the 70s completely and didn't.
You might have had a Romulan ale or two.
Yeah, they talked about it was sort of like he talked about how he was his way of defusing at the end of the day, because he would be Spock all day too, right? Like he was very method, and so on set he wasn't like super friendly with the rest of the cast, even though like friendly, cordial, but not like chummy or didn't break from being Spock too much. I don't think you had to call him Spock. But he was in.
I think once an actor gets in character like that, he has to almost stay in character. I knew a guy, Tim Houlihan. He flew to Calgary with, in the seat right next to him was Mike Smith, who was Bubbles, and he said that. From the Trailer Park Boys, and he said that the entire flight, it was like I was sitting next to Bubbles. He talked like him, he acted like him. He was in tune with his character the entire flight, and he said it was unbelievable. He
wore the glasses.
He didn't have the glasses on, but it was him. You could feel the whole thing.
Yeah, like that's that. So I think that there's that documentary For the Love of Spock. That's where I learned all that about Leonard Nimoy, because that's him and he talks about that because his son Adam Nimoy made that documentary. And
yeah, I haven't seen it yet. I've been meaning to.
It's quite good. I would recommend.
I heard good things about it.
Yeah, there's some good ones out there. So Jeff, did you want to maybe break down some fun facts?
Where is he?
All right, yeah. Twisting my arm. Fine, we can do some fun facts.
I gotta twist your arm, yeah.
Fun facts with Jeff.
Okay, so the plot of inmates taking over the asylum and impersonating the warden closely resembles another episode called Dagger of the Mind, right down to the angry chair prop, which is reused from that episode. The agony chair prop. In his memoir, I Am Not Spock, Leonard Nimoy shares a memo that he wrote to the producers to complain about the similarities.
I remember that.
There you go.
Yeah, well, we heard last week that Leonard Nimoy said that a lot of the season 3 stories were just kind of to him. He wasn't as into them as the first 2 seasons.
I completely agree with him.
Okay. The asylum's planet's name is based upon a historical place. Elba 2 is named after the Mediterranean island off the coast of Italy where the French Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte was briefly exiled to in 1814. Napoleon succeeded in escaping from there in 1815 and was restored to power in France, but he was later defeated at Waterloo. He then spent the remaining 6 years of his life on a remote South Atlantic island of St. Helena. Captain Garth in this story was characterized as another Napoleon.
Napoleon type, okay.
Except it wasn't short.
Well, yeah. Wasn't like a complete knockoff. This episode's title is often misattributed to the Greek playwright Euripides. However, the phrase "whom the gods will destroy, they first make mad" is spoken by Prometheus in Henry Wadsworth Longfellow's poem "The Mask of Pandora." Another version, "those whom the gods wish to destroy, they first make mad," is quoted as a heathen proverb in Daniel, a model for young men from 1854. So yeah.
Yeah,
Garth's
do most people know that, Jeff? Do you think that most people know that where that quote comes from? I hate sometimes when writers give titles to episodes that are like these clever references, like they know what's going to get. Or what do you think?
I think you don't like being clever.
Well, it's like obscure.
It is obscure. Okay, the remote control for the facility's force field is a repainted and redecorated phaser prop. Garth's torture chair is also a reuse of the chair in the neural neuralizer room from Dagger of the Mind as well, except this time with the addition of earpiece mounted on either side. Kirk refers to Spock as his brother, and Spock agrees with a figurative interpretation of the relationship. However, Kirk would again refer to Spock as his brother in the best Star Trek movie of all time, Star Trek V, The Final Frontier. Although Garth is a former Starfleet captain whose exploits were studied by Kirk at Starfleet Academy and thus is at least a decade older than Kirk, the actor who played Garth, Steve Inhat, is 3 years younger than William Shatner.
Hence our confusion.
Yeah. Steve Inhat worked with Gene Roddenberry and DeForest Kelley in his failed pilot Police Story from 1967, which led to his casting as Garth.
So he was like, well, that show we never made?
Yeah. Like, hey, you want to come play a crazy guy on Star Trek? He was like, you know what? I'm not doing anything else.
Well, I see a lot of shows do this. Like the actor they rejected for Riker was brought back in to play the fabulous Okona, whatever his name was, and then they had that guy who was supposed to be Cisco, who was in that really boring episode of Deep Space Nine with Odo, where he got hit by a rock. So they tend to bring back like rejected actors to sort of play guest roles.
They're like, we're sorry. Want to play this guy who gets killed? Okay, great.
You want to play this guy who's like 10 lines and will never be on the show again? Sure.
I can't give you a multi-episode contract, but I can kill you with a rock. Does that work?
Yeah, does that work? We'll pay you, like a couple grand for like a week, and then you get some drugs and screw off. Okay, good. The character of Garth led to a historical legal battle with Paramount fan filmmaking community, a battle about pitting digital rights and its owners, and the community which had growth in the first place. The Star Trek fan filmmaking community has always been very strong and vibrant one, even prior to the internet. However, it's been through such sites as YouTube that the fan-made films have found a much wider audience. After receiving over $1 million in Kickstarter funds, the makers of a proposed fan-made film based on Garth's battle at Axar were told by CBS and Paramount in no uncertain terms that doing so would be in violation of copyrighted material. This incident and the uproar since has roiled the community.
Yeah, I've heard of that too, and yeah, because if they're not making money at it, what does it really matter? And it's sort of become like if they're just playing. But now, fans
but what if it's a really good piece of art?
That's what they're afraid of.
10 years. Yeah, that's what they're afraid of. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because that's what the fans now can make stuff better than what they make in some cases.
What might end up happening is they might end up making like something that makes Spock look like a whiny bitch, and then. You have this problem later on. Oh, wait. No, they did that. That was Discovery. Never mind.
They did that. Yeah. Okay.
Look at Adam. Adam's just like, Urgh.
Leonard Nimoy, drunk off his ass, over off his ass, still was able to give me the essence of Spock.
I think
Dave said so himself today.
I don't necessarily think I think he's maybe a little bit disengaged, but I don't think he's
it's like he's phoning everything in. I don't know.
He's getting ready for his next job over at Mission Impossible.
He's thinking about hitting Jim Beam at 8:30 that night. That's what's going on.
I don't think he put him in the martini. It was a classic. Come on.
Maybe the green girl turned him down. I don't know.
Yeah. Garth mentioned several figures from Earth's history who failed in their attempts to conquer the planet. Among them, Alexander, Caesar, Napoleon, Hitler, and the fictional name of Li Quan. This marks the second time the fiction Li Quan was mentioned in the episode in the original series, as Spock cited his name among Ramses II, Guy Julio Caesar, Alexander the Great, Napoleon Bonaparte, and Adolf Hitler in Star Trek Patterns of Force, which we already watched, where Spock stated that Earth's history is full of men seeking absolute power.
Jeff, what was that guy's name again?
The original guy, Li Quan.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to hear you say it again.
Li Quan.
Oh.
While the Andorian inmate is wearing an almost boa-like red costume, one of the human inmates is wearing the traditional Andorian costume seen in the second season, and which can be seen again on an Andorian corpse in The Lights of Zetar.
I knew it. I knew that was an Andorian costume.
Only you would notice that, Dave.
I was like, why is that guy
Okay.
steal his Andorian armor? Sorry, Jeff.
It's time for a fun fact. Okay, this was released in January 1969, and Garth says twice, Marta, my dear. It is an apparent nod to the Beatles' White Album, which came out a year before, in November of 1968, and included the song Martha, my dear, which was written by Paul McCartney and was an ode to his old English sheepdog, Martha.
Jeff, you're a Beatles fan. What does that mean to you?
I guess that's more impressive to you than me.
I think whoever wrote the screenplay was listening to the White Album and was like, let's call her Marta instead of Martha. And he'll say,
Let's
Marta,
call her
my dear.
Lucy. And what if she was in the sky?
That would be clever, won't it?
It was so interesting. Adam looks like he's actually like constipated right now.
Yeah, it's
I just concentrate really hard.
Dave. This was the last live action appearance of the Orions in the Star Trek franchise until Enterprise did the Orions again in Borderland.
Wait, there are
And
no
35 years later. It took them 35 years later to paint another girl green.
Why?
I think it is expensive. Well, expensive, but different.
Blue. Is it more expensive? Is green paint more expensive than blue paint?
Well, I just think
No, it's not a matter of the color. It's a matter of the maintenance. They probably they get her to like grab something and then they got to repaint her.
they
Yeah,
probably like.
In Enterprise, they brought in those 3 Orions, right? Like that's just,
Mhm.
and they looked great. But I guess that maybe the makeup was just too hard to do. Is that what you think? What do you think? Until like
I think
2000?
so. I don't think they have.
Very high maintenance makeup. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because most makeup's not full body.
Okay, the suits worn by Garth's men on the planet's surface are environmental suits as worn by the Enterprise crew in the Tholian web.
I noticed that too. I know about the uniforms.
He's so proud of himself. He's like, I noticed that too. That costume.
Leonard Nimoy complained to the producers that the story's climax was unbelievable and that Spock would have had no such difficulty identifying which the real James T. Kirk is. For instance, Spock is a close...
That's why, Jody. That's what he was pissed off at this.
For
He's
instance,
like, why am I not running?
Spock is a close friend of the captain and could have easily posed personal trick questions that only the real Kirk could have answered.
Yeah.
This is also the only episode where Spock performs a simultaneous double Vulcan nerve pinch on the different alien species. Never been done before, never been tried before. He succeeded.
I don't know if it's been done again.
Question.
Last episode was the first time they did an intership transfer. So, every episode we're seeing new things here.
It must be you, Ted.
Why?
You planned this.
Here's my question: When Garth is pretending to be Spock and he does the nerve pinch on Marta, does he know how to do the nerve pinch, or did she fake passing out?
Unknown.
I don't know.
I want answers. Come on.
No.
Of course he is. Of course he is.
I think he learned how to do it.
Okay. This is the second of 4 times in which a shapeshifter imitated Captain Kirk. It previously happened in The Man Trap, It would happen again in the animated series episode The Survivor. And then it would again happen in, of course, Jody's favorite movie, Star Trek 6, The Undiscovered Country.
That is the best movie ever.
Doesn't it happen in Star Trek 5 too when they meet God, or is it Cybok God pretends to be or something?
Yeah.
I avoid that movie like the plague.
Yes, that's Cybok. Just the name Cybok brings up.
Yeah, once you say Cybok, I'm done.
And I got one more thing to say.
Yeah.
Those nerve pinches. Those nerve pinches had the wrong sound effect. It had didn't have the right score. It had didn't have the Alexander Korchak doo doo. It was like dun, dun. I was like, that's lame.
Damn it. Yeah. Kirk tells Spock that he doubts King Solomon would have approved of the Vulcan manner of determining who was Kirk and who was Garth. Earlier, Garth had discussed Alexander the Great in Star Trek Requiem for Methuselah. Kirk and Spock meet Mr. Flint, an immortal man who claims both Solomon and Alexander among his many past identities.
Kirk says to him at the very end of this episode, Kirk notes that Spock let himself be hit on the head by Garth to make his determination. Did he let himself get hit on the head? He hit on the head?
Sure.
To cause the fight? I don't think he let himself.
I think it's possible.
Right.
I want to know why they didn't do the deduction of which one could lift the chair. Because one of them was weaker. Like, he even said that. He goes, well, you were the weaker one. So
I picked up a chair and you
yeah,
were...
like the other guy picked up a chair. Obviously, that's Garth.
Yeah, you're not a chair picking up kind of guy.
I never see you fling chairs anywhere.
I don't see you do any kind of work around the ship. You just kind of sit in a chair. You know how to sit in a chair.
Okay, and finally, the final fun fact here. One strong theme put in the script on purpose by the episode's writers and missed by many people for decades is the issue of copying or plagiarism done on purpose or not in this episode from the fact that this episode's plot bears a very strong similarity to Dagger of the Mind from 1966 from this first season. Through to Garth's ability to morph and copy, as it were, anyone to the last and at least observed example, when Marta first recites a poem she wrote, she recites Sonnet 18 by William Shakespeare, and a heated exchange between Garth and Marta takes place. However, Marta soon recites another poem that she wrote. This time, it's the first stanza of A.E. Housman's the 14 in Midnights in November. Yet no one notices, not the characters on screen, nor most of the viewers. In each example, except for the last, whether it's the episode's viewer or who notices the strong similarity between the two episodes, to Garth's ability to morph and the damage that can occur, to Mayim's first self-written poem, all of these three examples cause anger. In the case of Garth towards Marta reciting Shakespeare, and / or somehow danger, except the last one, Marta. Criffy from A.E. Husband's the least obvious changes was unnoticed by all, and for so long leaves the question: if no one noticed, is there any damage? And that's it for
You lost me at the end there, Jeff.
Holy shit!
Let's get to the
I
ratings.
went far.
All right.
No one heard it. It wouldn't make it.
I don't know.
I knew that one would take a while, but it was a fun fact worth doing.
Very, very fun. Okay, Jeff, you should rate first, I think, just for that. So,
Yeah, we don't have to hear you talk for a while.
I'm just the reader of the fun facts.
I know, I'm kidding.
Blame me, I'm merely the messenger. I don't know. I'll probably give it like a 7.9. It was okay. It was good.
okay. Right here. Yeah, there. Okay, over to Dad.
I'd like a little less, maybe a 7.5.
Okay, Adam.
Oh, it's a good episode. I'm going to stick with 8.5.
All right, and Jody.
You guys are all on drugs. This is like a 6.
What?
It's a 6.
Oh, there's the Jody I first met.
I don't know if I'm going
Adam on this.
but I'm going to anyway.
Not too much of a surprise. I'm going as high as like 8.7. So Okay, so that from our 5 scores, that averages at 7.7 for this episode. Above average, not that much. Depends on so we got some of us who are high, some of us in the middle, and Jody who's the lowest on it. But that's the science we use. And we also have a 7 at IMDb, so that's kind of consistent. This is not super well regarded among Star Trek fans. I think it's okay, but I don't think it's famous. And so that gives it about a 7.4, which is just below average if you look at like our score, our averages combined with the IMDb.
It's an average episode.
I can live the rest of my life with never seeing this episode again. That'd be fine.
I would like to watch this just to hear about the Battle of Axanar. Dad, do you have an episode in mind to do next?
Yes. Season 1, Court Martial.
Season 1, Court Martial. A courtroom drama, you say?
Yes, Court Martial.
I've heard of this episode. I think I've seen it, but it's been
Season 1, episode 20.
I believe so.
Okay, we'll be watching Court Martial next Wednesday here on TED Trek Original Series, and from Season 1. So that's where Kirk goes on trial, I believe, for blowing up a ship or something. So we're gonna check that out. Going to be interesting to see how that plays out. I think Kirk will get off, but we got to see how it goes.
Kirk will get off, I'm sure.
We will be here again, as mentioned Wednesday, but we'll be here tomorrow too. Adam, what are we doing? Star Trek Discovery
Finale.
Season 3 finale.
Yes.
Are you guys gonna do a season recap show?
Yeah, we said we'd bring you back in for the deep dive when we kind of talk about the whole season as a whole. Yeah, but we're going to cover the finale tomorrow. Tomorrow night will be a late one. It's always a late one on Thursdays where we're covering Discovery, but it's been a labor of love. We even had our New Year's Eve episode last Thursday. So we're excited. Michael, Adam, and I think Jane's even going to stay up late enough to talk about. We also had Mike O'Connor who sat in last week. I'm hoping we'll have Mike back on some other podcasts in the future.
Cool.
It was great to have him involved. And also, you're not hearing it first because we did announce this last night, but we are coming back with our next edition of Star Trek Radio Theater, which is going to be Star Trek Enterprise for the first time ever, the Mirror Universe episode of Star Trek Enterprise, which is the prequel to the original series. We got our whole cast. It's a full 2-hour episode we're going to be doing that night. Jody, you're playing Captain Maximilian Forrest.
Cool.
And Ensign Kelly, and I'll be Gorn and a couple of admirals and some aliens and things. And Jeff, you're going to be Commander Charles Tucker III, but mirror version, of course.
The engineer of the night.
He's the Phantom of the engine room. Charles Tucker in the
road.
Yes. And so check that out on January 16th for Inner Mirror Darkly. We also do Deep Space Nine rewatches on Tuesdays. I feel like I should put Jeff on camera for this. Jeff, for Deep Space Nine. Guess what we're doing next week? We can't hear you. But guess what? I'll tell them for Jeff. We are doing the Maquis Part 1 and 2 Tuesday. So check all that out. The introduction of the Maquis.
Hopefully, I'll eventually get to season 3.
Do we get to meet Eddington? Do we get to meet Eddington in this episode or no?
No, he doesn't come until
season 3.
Yeah.
I thought he might be debuted.
Maybe end of season 2, but he doesn't come in during the 2-parter. No. Anyway, so excited. It's starting to really pick up in this kind of like final episodes of season 2 on Deep Space Nine, and we're gonna be hitting season 3 before we know it. And I think that's it. We also have our other channels, Trivial Debates, Super Mater Brothers Podcasting, Trivial Debates. We argue about movie, sports, TV, and more. We do that once a month. We did the December version. Jody was hosting. We had
banned from hosting now.
Yeah, no, it was good.
I gave Chris his first win.
Chris, yeah, well, that's you can't live that down forever. But yeah, so check that out. Every month we do an episode. Adam, I hope you'll be on the next one. We're trying to put that panel together, or maybe you want to host. You can also consider hosting. So we gotta book all that in. So anyway, and not to put you on the spot. And then we also have
well, you already did, but anyway.
Brothers Podcasting. We expect to be back when Big Brother Canada comes back in March. So, or Survivor, whatever comes back first. Anyway, so that's it. I'm going to sign off for the night. Thanks to everybody. Thanks, Dad, for the TED Trek. We'll be back to court martial. Yes, yes. Get your glasses checked there, Chief. And happy belated birthday. Dad's birthday was yesterday. We didn't.
I said something nice to him on Facebook, but he never responded. So we're not friends anymore.
It was
What?
nice. Donald Trump gave Dad.
I said happy birthday, Ted, and I got nothing back.
Oh,
so
sorry.
I'm gonna unfriend you now.
He doesn't know the etiquette. He doesn't know.
It's fine. It's fine. I hope you had a good one.
Thank you. I did.
Okay. All right. So we're gonna sign off. Live long and podcast anymore. When did Jeff say it last night? For all of us here that live